Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on the ESPN app, Apple Podcast. Rate us, review us. We like 5 stars. Give them 4 stars. It's just a real hater sort of move. We don't need that. We got an interview with Steven Jackson coming up. Also, Jody Avirgan, the host of 30 for 30 podcast. Get you set up for season 3 of that. But first, whoo, boy, poor NFL. You ever hear the phrase, you're scared to speak and you speak because you're scared? That is basically where the NFL is on this national anthem situation. Scared to speak because they're scared. Yesterday we found out that the NFL has come down with their own national anthem policy. Now, what is that national anthem policy? I am going to read that to you right now. Now, you know, I'm sure you guys have been around here for a while. You've seen all the things that have gone on. The NFL basically blames the anthem protests for their falling ratings, even though ratings are falling all the way across the board. And there's evidence to indicate that actually more people are watching football these days than they had before. They're just not all watching them on television, but they all point their finger and they say that the problem with this is these dudes have been kneeling for the national anthem. That's the answer that they have for how we got here. Now, here is the anthem policy. Number 1, all team and league personnel on the field shall stand and show respect for the flag and the anthem. Number 2, the game operations manual will be revised to remove the requirement that all players be on the field for the anthem. Number 3, personnel who choose not to stand for the anthem may stay in the locker room or in a similar location off the field until after the anthem has been performed. Number 4, a club will be fined by the league if its personnel are on the field and do not stand and show respect for the flag and the anthem. Number 5, each club may develop its own work rules consistent with the above principles regarding its personnel who do not stand and show respect for the flag and the anthem. And number 6, the commissioner will impose appropriate discipline on league personnel who do not stand and show respect for the flag and anthem. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Number 1, when the owners made this decision, they kicked Roger Goodell out of the room. That is number 1. Number 2, I want to reread for you number 3, which was personnel who choose not to stand for the anthem may stay in the locker room or in a similar location off the field after the anthem has been performed. Now, I don't know what is a similar location off the field to the locker room. Maybe they're talking about being in the tunnel, perhaps. But are you peeping game on these rules? If you look at them in their entirety, what they're basically saying is, man, don't kneel. That's what they don't want. They don't want you to kneel or anything that is considered to be similar to be kneeling. What is the grand irony of that? The first time Colin Kaepernick was noticed not standing for the anthem, he was on the bench sitting down. There was no demonstration. There was no display. The decision to go to a demonstration or a display came after he talked to Green Beret Nate Boyer. And Nate Boyer said, well, kneeling is a show of respect, and that way it'll come across that you're not disrespecting the flag. Like the man went and talked to these troops that you say are so mad. And by the way, Nate Boyer is not on board with what Kaepernick is doing, but they talked, and this is what he said for them to do, right? You realize that if they just left him alone and let him sit by the bench, not bothering nobody, maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't have wound up in the situation that we're in. Now, maybe given how influential Kaepernick has demonstrated himself to be, some people would have been sitting next to him on the bench rather than kneeling in front as they did. However, all this stuff that's going on, and you realize the NFL has put on a rule that basically is saying, hey, Cap, why don't you guys do what Kaepernick was doing at first? Because they're so shook. They're scared to speak. They speak because they're scared. And I don't even know how much of it is about fans. I think it's about fans to a degree, but it's really about this guy right here that was on Fox and Friends in the morning. Here he is.
Well, I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but still, I think it's good. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. And the NFL owners did the right thing if that's what they've done.
If that is the story, do you feel like you pushed this story forward and you pushed this to a conclusion?
I think the people pushed it forward. This was not me. I brought it out. I think the people pushed it forward. This country is very smart. We have very smart people. And, you know, that's something ideally could have been taken care of when it first started. It would have been a lot easier. But if they did that, they're doing the right thing.
So the NFL, we've had this in many reports that Donald Trump's name came up, and they don't want the tweet from Trump. They don't want to have to go to war with Trump all the time because Trump has used the league as a way to curry political favor. Hey, you guys talking about you want me to stick to sports? Talk to your mans. I ain't asking him to talk about this stuff. Anyway, these people are shook by the idea that Trump is going to do something and then they will be playing defense against Donald Trump. Here's the problem. Everybody knows you're shook. Trump knows you're shook. Like, if you could listen, if we could pull that up one more time, Gabe, what Trump had to say, and I'll tell you when to stop it because it's a very important thing to listen for here. Listen to this.
Well, I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but still, I think
Stop
it's
right
good.
there. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms. You think that's not about to come back up? Because, look, there's going to be some dudes that stay in the locker room. Also, by the way, it's probably going to be some full teams who stay in the locker room. Do not forget what happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, where Tomlin was like, look, whatever we're going to do all as a team, and you're going to have to figure this out. Football coaches love stuff like that. If that's what it's going to wind up being, if they got to do everything as a team, then you're going to have a lot of teams that are then staying in the locker room. And if you have the teams that are staying in the locker room, you're still going to have the camera shots of the team staying in the locker room. And when that happens, what you think Trump's going to be like, well, I think they're doing the right thing. Like, based on his track record and how he gets down, do you think that's what he's going to do? Of course, that's not what he's going to do. The thing about this is this had kind of burnt out. It really had. Now, the cause of social justice and everything else, that is not a fad. The actual act of kneeling, little bit of a fad. Little bit of a fad. And if you don't think that it's a fad, keep in mind that the widespread kneeling in the 2017 season did not occur because of some act of police violence somewhere. No, it occurred because Trump called football players sons of bees. And then all of a sudden, people who voted for him and have TV jobs were like, well, I didn't know he was going to do anything like that. Yeah, because that was the line that was crossed. And then people wound up kneeling. I believe they said that nobody in the playoffs kneeled. Not a single player did. By the time you got to week 17, hardly anyone was doing this. Now the league is out here making this a thing again and poking people in the chest because they're so shook that something is going to happen that is going to get them on the wrong side of Donald Trump, a man that for so long they considered themselves to be above to the point where they would never let him sniff the opportunity to buy a team in this league. And now he's got them, and now they're scared. And they're so scared that you can tell they have no idea what to do. And since they couldn't figure out what to do, think about this. This is how you know they don't really have any idea what to do. They kicked Roger Goodell out of the room in order to come down with a decision that, oh, by the way, gives Roger Goodell a crazy amount of power. You're like, how are they giving Roger Goodell a crazy amount of power? I'll tell you how they're giving Roger Goodell a crazy amount of power. Because in the end on these things, who's deciding the punishment? Roger Goodell. Who's going to decide the fines? Roger Goodell. Who is going to decide what is or is not respectful? Roger Goodell. Because look, Art Rooney, now the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he said that he would deem a raised fist to be disrespectful. And if we're going to be real about this, we don't have an NFL media that is qualified to go run up on this man and be like, so what about that is disrespectful to you? What do you find to be disrespectful about the raised fist? Like the next level of question. Once they start determining, well, we just have to stand, like, so the idea, I think Goodell said, you know, actually, no, we have Roger Goodell right here talking about this. Here is Roger Goodell saying what he thinks.
Who's the arbiter of respect for the flag? What would be considered disrespect for the flag and the anthem? And why would the league and the owners kind of willingly attempt to police something that is subjective like this?
Well, I think the general public has a very strong view of what respect for the flag is in that moment. We have language in our policy that talks about that, standing at attention with hats off and focused. And I think the general arbiter will be the clubs and the league, and we'll work with our players and get their viewpoint also.
You guys can't even figure out what is or is not a hit that should be a 15-yard penalty. Yeah, you're going to tell somebody else what respect is in this. In this case, with the kneeling thing, cats have told them repeatedly, this is to show a level of deference. This is to say what we have to say while also showing respect. And then they deem that disrespectful, which is to say that their issue is not that it is deemed to be disrespectful. Their issue is what they are saying in the first place. That's where the problem comes up on this. Now, Goodell had a little bit more to say.
We think that we've come up with a balanced process here and a procedure and policy that will allow those players who feel that they can't stand for the anthem to stay in the locker room. And there's no penalty for that, but we are going to encourage all of them to be on the field. We'd like all of them to be on the field and stand at attention.
Encourage. Encourage. Yeah, okay. What's it called when your boss encourages you? Right? Now, again, we're going to see what happens across the board. I think it's interesting. The owner of the Jets, Chris Johnson, says that he'll pay whatever fines for his players, which is wild because, his brother Woody has got a job in the Trump administration. And, we got a general idea about how it is that the homie Woody gets down. Chris Johnson seems to be in a different place. He's like, fine, I'll just pay the fines. We don't know what the fine is going to be. Like, the NFL can really, really impose this in a strong way if they say we're going to hit you with $1 million fine in these circumstances. Or if you keep doing it, increasing the fine exponentially. If you need an example of that sort of thing happening with the fine, think about what happened with Mark Cuban when he first got in the NFL and he stayed complaining about the officials, right? And when Mark Cuban stayed complaining about the officials, they'd hit him with a fine of like $20,000. And he's like, dog, 20? Psh, I got 20. And then those fines got higher and higher and higher. Like, I think they got to a point of getting to like $250,000 on those fines because the fines just got bigger and bigger and bigger because he's like, I got all this money. You can't stop me from doing this. They're going to have to enforce on this pretty quickly. By the way, I also make another argument that the NFL put themselves in a bad situation because they are now both at the mercy of Trump and they are at the mercy of the players. Because, yeah, a team can pass that fine down to the players if they want. Like, if they want to do that, they can go ahead and do that. They can say, you know what? We are going to pass that fine down to the players. If the team gets fined, then we are going to pass that down, and then the player has to be fined. Okay, that's going to be a really bad look for the first team that makes the decision that they're going to fine a player. A really, 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 really bad look because now you're creating the distraction. Now you are creating the division that is going to take place in your locker room over such a thing. And let's not get this twisted. It's probably going to be some measure of division in some of these locker rooms when it comes down to these things that are going on. Once again, man, these cats have no idea what it is they are doing. They are totally 100% flustered, and they have no idea what it is they're doing. And you know what they could probably do to make their lives easier? I want you to think about this. The NBA has a rule that says that you have to stand for the national anthem, or you can be in the locker room, right? Part of the reason why nobody trips on the fact that the NBA has that rule is because it doesn't really come up. Like, nobody's really bugging on this fact. Like, yeah, that rule is in there, but nobody's paying attention to it in the way that right now the NFL is paying attention to these matters. The other thing is, pretty clearly it seems that NBA players have a trust and a faith in the owners of their teams that you don't really have coming back in the NFL. So if you go look at what happened with Sterling Brown in Milwaukee, remember I told you guys when we talked about this before, I was like, look, this sounds like the money is on board with this, right? I was like, this sounds like he has talked to the owners and the owners are on board with this. And if you saw Sterling Brown with that strong statement that he put out that was on Bucks team letterhead, or you look at the statement that the Bucks themselves put out, which was strong and again on team letterhead, hey man, if you want to stop these guys from kneeling in such a way, demonstrate yourselves to legitimately be on the side of what they are calling social justice, which, by the way, even the owners and the likes refer to as social justice. How are you the person that's against justice? Like, ask yourself that. Like, you guys out here who have a tendency to use that phrase, social justice warrior, how are you standing in opposition of justice? Because that's where you are. That's where you stand on this. Like, that's the place that they're in. So if the owners really want to figure out a way to get themselves out of this quagmire they've gotten themselves in, that would be it right there. Stand on the side of your players, not just say we're down to help them with what they win. Stand with them. Or are you afraid that your fans are just too racist for that? I honestly think your fans could put up with it. I do. You don't. Tell me why you don't. Because if I'm the one that's wrong, I'll be the one that's wrong. I just want you all to remember out there, because a whole lot of y'all think that I'm the real racist. I'm the one that's got faith in you. The people that you ride for are the ones who don't. So why you mad at me? All right, joining us now on the right time. He was on the 1995 Class 4A state champions at Port Arthur Lincoln High School in basketball. He's also won some championships in the NBA. I just like to point that part out. His name is Steven Jackson. Steven, tell me this. Are you buying the idea that LeBron was just tired in Game 5?
I mean, he's human, man. I was at that game. Kyrie gave me great seats. He looked tired. Those young guys had a lot of energy. You could tell they're playing against a younger team, but he looked tired last night.
Were you surprised he looked tired so early, though?
Yeah, I think, that's one of those games where, I'm not LeBron. My usage rate is nowhere close to his, but it's been times where, especially on back-to-back games or 4 games in 5 nights, where you come in, you warm up, you do everything the same, and your legs are just not there, and it's nights like that in the NBA.
Well, are we also, in a way, maybe being a little too hard on LeBron? Because as much as he was tired, he was 9 for 13 with 20 points like early in the third quarter.
Yeah, well, we expected. I think the reason why, because everybody expected him to have one of those big old LeBron history-making games. A 50-point game, get a win on the road. Everybody expected that, but like I said, he is human, and too much is given, much is required. That's why everybody's so hard on LeBron, because he's great.
Now, what's your read on the other guys that he's out there playing with?
They struggling. They need to help him. I don't get it. I never expected my boy J.R. Smith to be struggling like he is, and just the rest of the guys. They don't look confident. They don't look confident. They just watching LeBron and expect him to do it all. And I don't understand that. When you have an opportunity to get to the finals and everybody has the opportunity to do their job and contribute. When you got a great player that's passing the ball, making all y'all better, some of y'all have to make some shots to keep the confidence in him. He's not going to be confident throwing that ball all the time and guys not making shots. So for him to be playing so well and having a great playoffs and the teammates supporting cast to be sucking it up, man, I know he's depressed, but he won't come out and say it.
Now, what's your read on the coaching job that Ty Lue has done?
I think he's been doing his job. Man, you can't teach heart. You can't teach, you can't teach guys to go out there and fight and be the most physical team. They playing against some young guys who have more energy, who are faster. You have to be the more physical team. You have to goon it up like T. Lue said. What Chris Paul did, game 4 in Golden State. So they have to be the more physical team. They have to use their mind in the game because they're the older team. They're smarter. And but I like what T. Lue's doing. I just think, if he could, the way he played, he was a little feisty guy. He played with a lot of passion. If he can put that into his teammates, he would.
Well, are you surprised that they didn't? That in Game 4 and Game 3 they had all of that. So, what happens going into Game 5? Is it just the difference between playing at home and playing on the road?
Well, you know what, Bomani, that's the difference between players. Some certain players that have that it factor, and some players that just don't. Everybody can't play on the road. It's a lot of guys that's all-stars at home and they get on the road in another arena, can't hit the house if they was in the kitchen. So I know everybody's not built for those moments to make shots on the road. I was one of those guys. I hit a lot of big shots on the road. I love playing on the road and quieting the opposing crowd, but everybody can't do it, and that's just the reality of it. It's a different shot at home than on the road, and everybody don't have the guts to do that.
Well, it's a trip because you would think, guys get this far, they've had to do this on the road at lower levels. So, what changes when you get to the league and this is what you're facing? You
got to look, especially the finals, the Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals, right? It's only 2 teams that's been beat, at home in the Western Conference and Eastern Conference final at home, Golden State and Houston. So, and it's only because they have two of the top 5 players in the league right now. Where KD was able to will one. And Chris Paul and James were able to will one in Golden State. So everybody was expecting LeBron to do that too since he's the best player in the game. They was expecting him to will a win, in Boston, but he just don't have the supporting cast like these other guys have.
Now, what do you mentioned that the Celtics have those young, good guys, but how overall strong do you feel that roster is? Because you hear a lot of people talk about them doing more with less, but I don't see a whole lot of less.
Well, I look at it both ways. When they say that, I know they're looking at it like, okay, nobody expected these young guys to be playing the way they are, and nobody expected for Boston to be in the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. Nobody expected that. For them to be here, it looks like it's more with less, but you got to think they got some of the top picks, they got some of the top talent. Everybody knew Jason Tatum was going to be a player. I don't know if everybody knew Jaylen Brown was going to be what he is, but I knew I knew he was going to be an athlete because that kid has a lot of heart. I didn't know Rozier was going to turn into the guy he is. I knew Marcus Smart was going to be a physical guy. I knew about the Morris twins. So it's certain guys that people know about, but the guys that they got, we all knew that they was going to be good pros.
You love Marcus Smart, don't you?
I love him.
I knew it.
He's one of those guys. He takes up for his team. I like the guys that take up for their teammates and is not really worried about money. If it comes to a situation where I got to get out here and put my hands up for my teammates, these guys that I'm with during the 7th, 8 months of the season, more than I'm with my own family. I love guys like that because that's the type of guy I am.
Well, also the thing with Marcus Smart that gets me is the only thing I can point to that he's good at is making the Celtics better, because there's no one thing that you can point to like that.
Nah, and you know what? I'm glad you said that. He don't get credit for being one of the top 5 two-way players in the game. I hate that Covington. I don't know the kid, but I watched him play. He's not a defensive stopper. He's not first team all defense. Like that, I don't know how they did that. Marcus Smart is a better defender, a better player. You know, he plays on both ends. I don't understand how that happened, but Marcus Smart is a solid guy. I hope they can keep that team together, because they got a lot of moves they're gonna have to make in the coming future. But that kid there, he's definitely a pro, and like I say, he has to be recognized as one of the top two-way players in the game.
Now, you talk about taking up for your teammates. What did you think about the situation with Larry Nance and Morris, where Larry Nance got out there and wound up all by himself, surrounded by all the Celtics?
Yeah, because they was holding J.R. Smith back. I know if J.R. was on the court, he would have had his back. But you know, I think, you know, for what it was worth, Lance had to get up and do that. You know, we all know the Twins. The Twins is really about it. The Twins cut from the same cloth that I'm cut from, so they with it if it come down to it. And Marcus and the Twins, you know. He has to be that for that team. He's the vet. He's the one that's been shutting LeBron down. He has to continue the attitude and lead with the team. And as you've seen, when he got into it, who was the first one over there? Terry Rozier. Terry was over there. Scary Terry was over there. So I love it. That team is playing for each other, and that's the reason why they had so much success this year.
You think Boston's going to win the series?
Right now, I would never go against LeBron until it's 4-2. Or until Boston have 4 wins. That's the only way I say that. I'm not going against LeBron. He's proved me wrong so many times. And anybody that know basketball, that have common sense, yes, Boston hasn't won a game on the road this series. They won against Philly in overtime, but they haven't won on the road. They're a home team. They haven't been playing well on the road. They're not confident. So, and I know how good LeBron is at home. So I'm not going to say they're going to win the series, but I can still give LeBron a chance.
Well, one question that ties to this series, I'm always curious to ask different players about, because the views are different. Like, how important do you think coaching is in the NBA?
It's real important. And, you know, what bothers me is I'm not Greg Popovich. I'm not Pat Riley. I'm not none of these guys, but I know the game of basketball. I can sit here and watch 10 guys play basketball and pick out which guys, not by seeing his talent, but by watching these guys and seeing which guy is hungry and what type of guy that I would want on my team. If you're a guy that comes straight from behind a computer or a baseball field and you sitting behind a computer, sitting at the NBA combine, they ask you to watch these players, how are you going to know what type of player to pick, especially if you have never played the game? So there's a lot of that's going on in basketball. Guys that never played the game have to pick players on these teams, and that's why a lot of guys don't compete. So coaching is definitely important. I put on my social media last night, I didn't take a picture of the game or nothing. I took a picture of Brad Stevens because I was honestly there to study him, to see how he works in timeouts, because I want to be a coach one day. So I was actually studying him and watching him. People that actually know the game. You know, he's a smart guy. A lot of stuff that he did during the game yesterday, I saw, and I really caught on to what he was doing with substitutions and timeouts and stuff like that. So coaching is important, because I wouldn't be the player I was if I didn't have Mike Brown and Greg Popovich and Budenholzer, and then going to different teams and playing for guys like Larry Brown, Rick Carlisle, you know, and other coaches, you know. So coaching was definitely good for me, and it's definitely important in the game, because if you don't have it, you know, it can make or break you.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, what do you think about the way that Stevens handles his team? Because it's a lot different than Popovich.
Yeah, you know, and I think but at the end of the day, what's the same is they trust him. You know, they trust their coach, and that's what they all buy in. Nobody's worried about their own personal gain. Everybody's playing together, and when you have a team. 15 guys is playing as a team and playing for each other, considering everything they went through, it's easy to see that he gives everybody the same confidence. You know, nobody's better than the next guy, and that's what Pop did. Pop used to scream at me like he screamed at Tim Duncan. You know, it was no difference. We all have the same common goal, and is to be champions. So when coaches can do that, when you can get these guys to respect you, I know a lot of times players don't respect, you know, certain coaches, that, especially when you can tell that they don't know what they're doing, or if they've never played the game. And I've heard that from players all the time, you know, that they like being around people that know the game, because it's certain situations that they can ask questions about that go on in the game that an actual player can give them the answer to, you know. So, and some guys that never played the game, like I said, most of these guys that's sitting there on the sidelines, at these combines stuff look like little shortstops that came off baseball field, second base and third base, and decided, hey, well, I didn't make the major league, so I'm going to go scout basketball.
You know, I think a lot of people are surprised at how well you get along with Greg Popovich.
That's my guy. I mean, because I knew at the end of the day, Pop cared about me as a person, and it wasn't just about basketball. You know, he told me that from the jump. You know, it was a lot of times where he pulled me out the games. You know, we had a situation where he cut me right for the playoffs while I couldn't sign with nobody. You know, that probably was the end of my career, but I don't hold that against him. You know, it's a lot of things I could have done different in my career. So I will always give Pop the respect for giving me a chance to play with Tim Duncan and David Robinson and being able to say I'm an NBA champion. You know, I appreciate the opportunity. I started on that team. I was the third lead scorer. So, you know, just the opportunity. I never dumbed down the opportunity. I appreciated everything. And, you know, San Antonio has made me, you know, a bigger name, being able to say I have a championship. Because, like, I wouldn't want to be Charles Barkley sitting around saying I played 14 years and wasn't able to say I was the best in the world. You know, that's a great feeling, and can't too many say that.
You talked about gooning it up in the Celtics-Warriors series. You mentioned what the Rockets did. On one level, I think it might have surprised some people because you don't think of Mike D'Antoni teams that way. But the Rockets went and got guys like Chris Paul and P.J. Tucker, and that's kind of what they're here for.
Yeah, well, I give no credit at all to D'Antoni for the gooning part. Okay, D'Antoni hasn't changed nothing since their first practice all season. Okay, they've been playing the same way. He hasn't made an adjustment or anything. It's all due to Chris Paul. Yeah, PJ's been a little physical, but their success comes from Chris Paul. Because even the last game, if you look at it, James died a little bit. James quit a little bit. And that's the same thing he did last year. They didn't have Chris Paul, but they had Chris Paul to pick up the slack. You know, Chris is a tough pit bull type of kid, and it goes to show, hey, Los Angeles Clippers, it wasn't Chris Paul's fault y'all wasn't succeeding. I guess he's showing y'all now.
Yeah, now, you played with him with the Clippers. Like, for you playing with him, what was that like? Because some guys can't seem to handle just kind of how withering it can be to play with him.
It was funny because I was playing in Indiana, and Chris Paul was flying out there for some reason, and I was already living, and I gave him a ride to his hotel when he was just getting into the NBA. And we talked about, I always wanted to play with Chris Paul. He's the perfect point guard for anybody, you know, because he played on both sides. He can score, he can pass, he can do it all, and he's tough. And when I got to the Clippers, I was happy to be there. My role wasn't what I wanted it to be when I first got there. And he ended up breaking his hand, and they needed to bring more point guards in, so they ended up cutting me the same night he broke his hand.
Well, I think the thing that surprised me with the way D'Antoni has used him is, you know, D'Antoni's got the way that he likes to play, but it seems like a waste of Chris Paul if all you're going to do is isolate, or am I missing something?
No, well, I don't think it's a waste because he can ISO. He can do it all. He can play pick and roll. He can ISO. You know, Chris, and he can even post up. I don't even think people know Chris Paul got a nice post up game for a point guard. He can score in so many ways, and I think they have to ISO him because when James dies, you know, you can't rely on the pick and roll and him throwing it to Capella and expecting Capella or P.J. Tucker to get 20 points. He has to be aggressive.
Now, is James Harden a guy that you wouldn't feel like you could trust?
No, I wouldn't say that because he did have 30 points. So I wouldn't say I can't trust him. You just got to keep him engaged. He'll wander off sometimes. You know, he'll take a couple possessions off and pass the ball and just be in another world for a minute. You just got to keep him engaged.
Now, do you worry that he's a guy that's getting tired because all that dribbling and ISO can kind of wear you out?
I don't understand how could you get tired when you're 5 or 6 wins away from being NBA champions. There's no such thing. Everybody's tired. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's banged up around this time of the year. So if you sit down and look in the mirror and be like, okay, damn, I got 6 wins and I'm an NBA champion. All that tired stuff will go out the window. Turn it to Kevin Gates. I don't get tired.
I guess you're not trying to hear that every time Steph Curry plays bad.
Nah, none of them. You out there playing, then that's just what it is.
Now, with Golden State, with Klay Thompson looking hobbled and Iguodala being hobbled in this series, how important is that for them having those guys on the wing who don't look so great physically?
Yeah, you know, you just got to suck it up, man. I mean, like I said, everybody's banged up around this part of the year. You know, nobody's 100% healthy. Nobody. Especially these guys with high usage rates, guys that dribble the ball and shoot and make the plays. They're definitely banged up. So, yeah, you're going to have injuries where they get real sore. But if you get a day of rest or you can rest the game, you got to come back and play the next game at this point of the year. Ain't no more missing games.
So for the Rockets, what do you think the most important thing is for them to do?
Going the game up. They got to be efficient. And in order for them to win, they gotta, you know, he has only done it 12 times in 527 games, 27 games. PJ Tucker got 22. But some type of way, if they can get 15 to 15 from him and Ariza, and Gordon come out and play well, and James and Chris Paul have the games, they can win. But they got to keep it physical. They got to goon it up, because I think they are the tougher team.
Are you surprised they haven't tried to get any minutes for Joe Johnson? Because just last year, Joe Johnson was winning playoff games.
Man, listen. I said that a couple of times, especially when they was losing and they couldn't get points. I'm like, man, hey, Smokey Joe over there, Smokey Joe come out there and he'll come out there and get you 15 quick ones. You know, all you gotta do is throw it down to him on the block. He'll get you 15 quick ones. I think Joe is the only person in my life that put a move on me and made me spin around. For real, when he was in Atlanta, he made me completely spin. It's on YouTube. He made me completely spin around. Joe got some game left. I think if it come down to it, they definitely can use him for some points.
But what goes through your mind when some dude has spun you around? Because with NBA players, y'all have been the best everywhere you go, and then you get to the league and the dude can actually spin you around.
I've done it to some people too. So, hey, it happens. Just like getting dunked on. Like, the only thing that don't happen is getting hung. I've never got hung in a game like Draymond did. You know what I'm saying? And he's way more athletic than me, so I don't know how it happened, but it happens, man. Hey, in the NBA, everybody's a high percentage of guys. I ain't gonna say everybody, because I don't believe everybody good in the NBA. But it's a high percentage that everybody can play or do something well. And if you a defender in the NBA, you gonna get crossed over. I've never failed. Now, I kind of stumbled a couple times. AI and Ginobili, they didn't shook me before. But when you compete and you're a great defender, it's going to happen. You can't get away from it. You're going to get dunked on and everything.
I know I was never a great defender, because my number one goal in life is to not get dunked on. I have put so much effort in my life to avoid getting dunked on. And if I never play basketball again, it's cool, because I can say that I never got dunked on. I just couldn't take it, man. That's just a little bit more than I can take. And you're right. If you go play in the NBA, that's just the thing that's going to happen. Like, I look at the dude Baines, who gets dunked on all the time and just keeps on acting like nothing happened.
Yeah. Hey, one thing about it, he understand though. Like, he's challenging a lot of shots, especially guys that go after shots and block shots. They gonna get dunked on, guys gonna catch you off guard. But I just, like I said, it's a part of the game. Baines is one of those guys. He gotta play that role of defending and attacking every shot and trying to protect that paint. That's his role. So he gonna get dunked on a lot.
And one thing I think people don't give him enough credit for, I watched him on that switch the other game where he wound up on LeBron, and LeBron couldn't get around him. Like, this dude is actually a pretty good basketball player.
Nah, he's solid. You got to remember, he was with the Spurs. This kid comes from Australia, but he's a tough kid. They call him Baines because that's his name, but he really looks like Baines from Batman. if you look at him, he looks built like him and all that, So, but he's a tough kid, and he fits great with them because he has that old school physicality in the paint. He's gonna bang, and the fact that he can get out there and guard guys with the switch, that shows that this kid belongs in this league.
Now, speaking on the Warriors and the Rockets series there, how do you think that's ultimately going to turn out? I
still feel like, Golden State just got too much. I figure like that those four guys will figure it out. They have the best four. I think 4 beats 2 anytime. And with great coaching with Steve Kerr and Mike Brown over there, I just feel like some type of way they'll find a way to get 2 of these next 3 games. Yeah,
you seem to be more enthusiastic about Steve Kerr than you are about Mike D'Antoni.
Oh, yeah, because I know, I played with Steve Kerr. You know what I'm saying? D'Antoni's never won a championship. Steve has coached one and won several as a player. And from why, I'm a basketball fan. I'm a basketball junkie. I watch it. I know everything about the game. It's not too much you can tell me about the game. And I've watched D'Antoni all season. I don't see one adjustment he's made all season. So I he's a great offensive coach, but offense don't win championships. Defense do.
All right, now I wanted to ask you this. The story came out of Milwaukee with Sterling Brown and what happened with him with the police. What did you think when you saw that?
Well, I mean, I definitely wasn't surprised when I seen it, because I know the situation. I can be anywhere with 4, 5, 6 chains on, jewelry on, standing by a nice car 2 or 3 in the morning using a payphone. Anybody can make I'm just giving you an example. Anybody can just call and say, well, it's a guy in all black standing on the corner, and they can just pull up, not knowing that I'm making a phone call or not knowing that I'm sitting in a $200,000 car getting ready to go home, but just the fact that I'm black, they'll just come handle it a totally different way, not even knowing what's going on, just gonna handle my situation because I'm black, because of what he's going through or him having a bad day, you know, and it's just sad that a kid that works hard to get to the NBA, to change his life, to change his family's life, still got to be scrutinized as a thug or something without even having a conversation. I say this all the time, Bomani. It's a way for, as a man, if you tell me something, Bomani, as a man, like, Jack, you doing this not right, you doing this wrong, I can accept that from you and change what I'm doing and correct it without you putting your hands on me. It's a way for police to talk to grown men and to relay what they have to say and to get them to do what they have to do without putting your hands on me. One thing about it, yeah, we're black, but we comprehend and understand real well. I ain't go to college and got all degrees, but hey, I'm first team all common sense. So I know what's right and wrong, and I know when somebody say, go here, put your hands on the car. I understand all that well. There's no need for you to put your hands on me.
Were you surprised how strongly the team stood behind him after everything had come out? Because the statement they put out pulled no punches, and neither did his, and that was on team letterhead.
Well, I love they backed him, but that's just like this, okay? Just say Steph Curry getting the incident. We all know Steph Curry character. We know him as a person. He's a family man, God-fearing man, a good kid. If we just read the news that the police tased him and beat him up because he was resisting arrest, nobody in the world gonna believe that. But the ops. You know, the ops is the only ones that are going to believe that. Nobody in their right mind, well, if they want to come to the first team all common sense, then they would know that there's nowhere in the world that Steph Curry would be guilty of that. And that's just what it is. It don't matter what the real situation is. However they try to portray it, that's what it's going to be. Not to us, but to the masses.
Well, we've been watching what's going on with the NFL, where it almost seems like it's players versus the teams on a lot of these issues. As an NBA player, how did you feel about your relationship with owners? Like, if something would have happened like that, how comfortable you would have been going to the owner being like, look, I need some help?
Well, first of all, I played for 6-7 teams. There's probably 2 or 3 owners that I knew or I even met, you know, in person. A lot of guys on these teams don't even know the owners of the teams. Let me say that, okay? These owners really don't care about having a personal relationship with the players. You know, I think in San Antonio, I think the Holtz was great. They treated me like, I think the Peter Holt and his wife treated me like a child, like one of their children. You know, they really took care of me. They made sure they knew who my family was. I think it was only 2 or 3 Spurs invited to one of their children's wedding, and I was one of them. So, you know, that's a different situation. Every organization I like that. Now, I was just cut from the Clippers right before that Donna Sterling stuff came out, and I made the song and video, America the Beautiful, with Scarface, and that's the main reason why I'm not in the NBA, because I made that video and song about Donna Sterling. But if I would have been on that team, you know, I definitely wouldn't have played. I wouldn't have put that uniform on again. And they had a perfect opportunity to stand and do something great, and all they did was turn their jerseys over.
Yeah, I've always wondered what to do in that situation, though, because I guess you're in the playoffs, you're deep. Like, it's not like, for me, I feel like I can't judge because I was not there. But it did seem for a second, at least what people will tell you, that they thought about not playing before they ultimately came around with Sterling not leaving the team. But it sounds like you think they needed to do more.
Thought about it and doing it is 2 different things. You know, there's nowhere in the world that it came out publicly that your owner is racist, saying that y'all little monkeys, and he fixed the games and he buy y'all clothes, he give y'all all this, he say all this. If this whole organization decided not to show up to work, or if the team decided not to show up to the games, the NBPA, everybody was going to back that. There's no way the NBA could say we're not going to pay y'all because y'all decide not to play for a racist owner. Who was going to say that? It's nobody nobody would have went against them. Everybody had to support that.
So what do you think when you see this in the NFL? Because NFL players tend not to have as much power as NBA players.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not putting no helmet on. I got a lot of homeboys that I'm real cool with in the NFL, and I hate it's been, you know, it's a situation. Y'all go out there and play football and don't say nothing. You can't kneel down. You can't do nothing. I hate that, man, because it's a lot of guys in the NFL that's doing it for the right reason. Kaepernick and a lot of other guys, they just trying to bring awareness to certain issues, and I don't know how that's wrong, especially when Kaepernick reached out to a Green Beret and asked him, after he read the letter, reached out and asked him what's the best way to protest. What's the best way? What's the peaceful way? He told him to take a knee. So I don't understand, well, I do know. I know. Trust me, I know why they stopping it, but I don't understand how they just can sit there and take away a man's right to stand up for something he believe in, man. I don't understand it. I mean, I just don't get it.
Well, I guess, was there anything that came close to this while you were playing?
You would have known. Nothing came close to this when I was playing in the NBA. You would have known. Trust me. You see how quick I made that video about Donald Sterling? I wasn't even tripping on another job in the NBA. That had to be said by a player. It couldn't come from nobody else. And the fact that I was just on that team, I felt, and I was rapping. I was already rapping. I had to do it, man, because I knew nobody else had the guts to do it.
I think one of the interesting things about what happened when you were playing with the Clippers, to me, was how many people didn't know already some of these things about Donald Sterling, because I believe you were one of those.
Man, they knew. I'm talking about people in the organization around. They knew. Baron Davis knew. Baron Davis didn't have anything good to say about him. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think Baron Davis said that he didn't even know Baron's name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, that goes to show you that, owners that really care about the game, owners that's locked in, that's really benefiting from the game, they're in tune to everything. They know their players, they know their families. It's a lot of stuff they have going on, and they're real in tune too. And I'm glad it came out, and I'm glad the young lady spoke up. But I will say this today, and I would say it anywhere else in the world. I don't think he's the only one.
Well, I tell you this, I ask you one last question before we get out of here, because I saw something on television that I think might have made you laugh. You talk about the Warriors and you used to play for the Warriors. Did you think you would live long enough to see Matt Barnes on the Wendy Williams show? Because I was flipping channels last night and I looked up and your bad Matt Barnes is sitting there on Wendy Williams.
Man, no, I didn't see that. I didn't know that, man. Matt was on Wendy Williams last night.
Matt was on Wendy Williams. Matt had cleaned up, and that was a different Matt Barnes voice that I'd heard before. I was like, get your money, but I never thought we'd get this far in life where Matt Barnes would just be chilling on the Wendy Williams show.
Oh, man, I got to call Matt. I ain't with it. That's my boy. I got to call him. I ain't feeling that, Matt. What's going on, man? What was the topic, man?
I think they started off talking about when he had to go see Derek Fisher at one time, and then he got to talking about some of the other things that he was pushing and that he was selling. But, that audience is interested in what's going on with the Derek Fisher situation. Yeah. And so I guess he's over there getting that money.
Yeah, hey. If it ain't beneficial, it's artificial. If he getting the check, I'm with
it. That's it. That's our man, Steven Jackson. You can check him out on various television networks right now because he is everywhere these days. My man, I appreciate you stopping through as always.
Man, anytime. You know that.
All right, man. Take it easy. And now a word from Hims, because everybody loves the idea of me, man, with no hair telling you that you can keep your hair. And you can. Look, man, 66% of men lose their hair by age 35. You know how it goes, but here's the thing. The earlier you go for it, the better the chances you have. Keep the hair you have. Don't try to replace the hair that you lost. I mean, a year from now, if it's business as usual up there, you're still going strong, you'll be happy. Ask yourself, do you want a bald spot to pop up, or do you want to do something about it first? Do you want your hairline to do the moonwalk, or do you want to do something about it first? People turn to all kinds of strange solutions that don't even help. Why do that when you can turn to medicine and science? ForHims.com is a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and other wellness supplements for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. They'll connect you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat your hair loss. They got generic equivalents, name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. No gas station pills. These are prescription solutions backed by science. No awkward visits. Save your time visiting ForHims.com. It's so easy. Answer a few quick questions. The doctor will review and can prescribe you. The products are shipped directly to your door, and my listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today. Right now. Supplies last. See the website for full details. That will cost you hundreds of dollars at the pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/Bomani. That's FORHIMS.com/Bomani. Forhims.com/Bomani. All right. Before we get out of here, I want to let you guys know that 30 for 30 podcast season 3 is now available. And to tell us more about it, we've got the host of the 30 for 30 podcast series, Jody Avirgan. Now, Jody, this time you guys are diving into one story for the whole season. Tell the folks what you got going.
So, well, thanks for having me on. It's nice to chat with you about this again. This is our first serialized story. We were thinking about this as one episode for last season. Then we realized, you know what, this story deserves more. So we've turned it into 5 parts, which is our entire season, which is one story total over 5 parts. And it's the story of Bikram yoga, which is a kind of yoga that was very popular in the United States through the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And it's a very sort of aggressive, very athletic kind of yoga. It's not sort of a spiritual practice. It's really thought of more so as an athletic pursuit. And at the heart of it all was this guy, Bikram Choudhury, who founded the yoga, invented the yoga, brought it to America, has a real sort of compelling personal story and was a really incredible, hard-charging salesman for this. But then he built this sort of cult of personality around him and amassed an immense amount of power. And over the years then began to abuse that power in kind of awful ways, including in recent years he's been accused of a number of sexual assaults and rapes. So our story is really trying to tell this story of this sort of fitness movement and this cult of personality around Bikram Choudhury, but also trying to understand how we got to this point where this community has to deal with all these awful things that he did.
Well, I also think a lot of people will hear that is the story and believe that ESPN decided to do this because of all the things that were happening in the news. But correct me if I'm wrong, you guys had already been working on this prior to the Me Too movement getting its legs.
That's right. I mean, so this is all done by a reporter, Julia Lowy Henderson. She practiced Bikram for many years, and it was the first story that she ever pitched when she came in and we started this. And she's been working it for about a year and a half. And, of course, the Me Too movement came along and broke, and we just realized, obviously, that there are so many themes that tie in. And so I think it's been really interesting. I mean, 30 for 30s, they're often historical. They're often these stories that are not kind of newsy. But this one has some of those really urgent themes to it. And so we really feel like it speaks to this moment for sure.
Was there anything in particular that you learned in the course of this that you were surprised to find out?
I mean, there were certainly a lot of little tidbits. I mean, like the list of people who were in Bikram's orbit at any given point. Richard Nixon pops up he claimed that he cured Richard Nixon and saved Richard Nixon's leg. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did Bikram yoga for a long time. The Miami Dolphins did it for a long time. He sort of got his start in Hollywood in the 70s and sort of working his way into celebrity culture. So it was just sort of interesting to see this kind of like little celebrity world that was built up around him. The other thing that was really, I think, I learned over the course of helping make this, and I think is part of the goal of this, was to really just try and understand how these kinds of things happen. Awful people do awful things, but they don't do it in a total vacuum. And just we feel like it's really important to take the time to understand how he amassed power, the relationship with his followers, and how he was able to then abuse that power. And so, I mean, it really got me thinking about this stuff.
Now, how many episodes are we working with here this season?
5. It's a 5-parter.
I'll tell you, it's exciting, though, because I think, one thing the podcast has allowed for is the serialization of these things, because I guess the method of consuming it makes it so much more conducive for these long-form things than people had really considered until a couple of years ago.
I think that's right. And, we're trying to really push in a direction that, some other places are doing as well. But, thinking of these as like audio documentaries. We're trying to make the audio equivalent of the 30 for 30 films, which is like completely immersive, full of great archival, full of great stories, and then the ability to do it serialized. And we binge released this, right? So we dropped them all at once. So we really think that people can take their time. We've already heard from people. It's only been out for 30 hours at this point. We've already heard from people who've read through the whole thing. I know that there's a holiday weekend coming up. I think people will be able to take their time and listen. But, we felt like, more than anything, we just felt like this is a story that needs all this time, and we have the flexibility to do that.
All right, that is Jody Avirgan, host of the 30 for 30 podcast series. Season 3 is now available. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks so much.
All right, no problem. Like we said, 30 for 30 podcast season 3 is now available. The season takes a deep dive into the complicated world of Bikram yoga. Its founder used connections with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, John McEnroe, and other stars to spread his hot, aggressive yoga to the world. But Bikram's guru status enabled increasingly dark behavior. It's a story you have to hear to believe. Subscribe and listen to 30 for 30 podcast on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. All right, that'll do it for The Right Time today. Thanks to Steven Jackson, Jody Avirgan, and for Hims. Remember, check us out at the Apple Podcast, at the iTunes Store, anywhere you get the podcast. Rate us, review us. We like 5 stars, and we will talk to you guys again on Tuesday. Take it easy.
Thanks for checking out The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast.
You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Right Time
with Bomani Jones.